before the curtain goes up. And I'm with one of my most favoritist people ever, even though I hardly ever see them because they once worked with me a long time ago. Corey Payette, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. So fun to do this.
Yeah, now you are making musicals all over the place, a little bit over here, a little bit over there, and you suddenly have this new show. How did this come to be? Because you kind of were given like because of your reputation, you were given like, do anything you want, here's the money.
No, I think it's more so just after I had, musicals take a really long time to create. So when you have your shows in development, it's hard to slot other things in to be able to work on them. So it really was after I had, completed Children of God and Les Filles du Roi and Sedna that I started to think, okay, what are those next shows? And so a musical stage company in Toronto approached me and said, whatever it is, we want to be a part of it, and just gave me such a great opportunity. And then now with Urban Inc. and Raven Theatre and the Culture all supporting to make this happen, it's kind of just like it's been a wild ride. It's a giant show. It's like creating musicals is an enormous task in and of itself, but now try doing it and like with drag on top of that, and all these different elements. It really feels a little bit like I really didn't think it through fully, but we're having an amazing time and the show is just extraordinary. And yeah, it's just going to be a huge party. So I feel like it's coming full circle.
Nice, nice. I want to talk about the show, but I wanted to just check out on something. I saw the original. I was in Australia and I got to see the original production of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And as I was paying my millions of dollars to go in, I was waiting in line. I went, "Oh my God, are they going to be lip syncing the whole time?" And how they did it is they had three singers above them singing live, and they lip synced below, which is neat. So
Wow.
what are you doing with your drag queen? Is she singing live the whole time or is she lip syncing? Because most drag queens, of course, lip sync.
Yeah, well, and we have live singers. Like we're all of our vocals are live, and it's going to be just and the voice is like, oh, it's what were they last week when we were working some of the music? It was like we're calling them like the super tenors. You know what I mean? Like it's just their voices are just really extraordinary. And so there is the music for the show, because it's a lot of different rock, pop, sort of club dance beats. A lot of the music is pre-recorded, but the soloists are all live, so that's something that will be an extra layer to, in addition to being in drag, in addition to having all these different, beautiful pieces on yourself, you're also then going to have to like belt a high A or something like that. So that's an additional challenge for the performers.
Nice. Now, you wanted to write a story. You wanted it to be about someone coming into their identity. But how did you craft that story? Because it's challenging to kind of go, I have an agenda of what I want to do, but how do I then make a narrative? What was your process for creating this?
Well, the first thing that came to me was that I wanted to be able to create a moment for us as an audience to be cheering on an Indigenous character, right? An Indigenous a queer person who was struggling with all the things that so many Indigenous people, but also queer people face, of trying to accept yourself, trying to celebrate yourself, trying to kind of unpack and let go of so many of the things that society has told us that it's the way that you should be, but inside yourself, you know how you are and how you want to be or how you feel is natural to be, and yet you're constantly having to sort of pull those parts of yourself away. And so it really came from that place of wanting to celebrate the characters, Starwalker, as for all of their truths, for all of the things that maybe they've been told that they should hide away or that they shouldn't celebrate, but that they do. And then we, as an audience, get to be a part of that and be a part of that journey. And so it really came out of exploration of love and family and what it means to feel that disconnection. And then when that family comes, in this story, it's a chosen family. It's
Chosen
people
family.
who are a part of a drag house, a part of the House of Borealis, who see something in Star and see their potential, and then are able to basically give over the reins to say, what is it that you see? How is it that you want to see your persona and see yourself reflected on stage? And then what Star is able to do is magnificent. They're able to connect with a deep cultural heritage, connect with their two-spirit identity that gives them so much strength and leadership, that then also propels them into being able to speak about the politics and about the culture and the way that Indigenous people are still fighting on the front lines for so many things that for a long time it's like those I don't know if there's been such a clear alignment of how our struggles. In many ways, there are so many intersections, and that is a lot of times comes from the patriarchy and comes from these like systems that have been in place to oppress us and tell us that our love isn't the same as someone else's love, and it's interesting because when I started writing it, it wasn't. I didn't have a world where there were protests outside of drag story hours, or where we didn't have like some of the hateful rhetoric around Indigenous people taking up roles of leadership, where we didn't have this sort of like, these weren't so strongly, of course it's under the surface, but I don't think it was that we had seen so much of the pushback. And so now to have this be on stage and have this story be out there in such a a strong way, it's like we are creating a revolution. We are holding ourselves up as artists and saying we have something to say. We want change. We see it, and it's not something that can be taken away from us. And so Star, the character in the show, is able to manifest and bring out that power in all of us to say we can do this. We know what is right, and we know where we have to be, and it's about coming together and seeing it through for each other, and of course for like future generations.
Wow. Yeah, I actually went to the on the support side, on the ally side, I went to the Coquitlam protest 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
It was insane to hear the anger that you were like, what, are you going to stop pantos now? Because there's people in drag and pantos. Like the hatred and vitriol is like so unreal. Like you can't argue with it because it doesn't make sense, right? They don't hear logic.
It is constantly surprising. I think also people who have I have been gay since I came out of the womb, and I feel like I grew up in a supportive family. Exactly, I came out with a high kick, and I grew up with a very supportive family and a community of artists. Obviously, like almost everyone I work with is a lot of queer people in the room, and that's fantastic. And I think that sometimes we forget that the whole world isn't like doesn't understand where we come from and are the gifts we have to share, and how holding all of us up actually it makes all of us better. And so I constantly am surprised, and I'm thinking like, I thought we passed this. Like I thought that we were further along, and that's okay. It's okay that we're not, but I think that that's a reason why shows like Starwalker are so important, because it's not solely saying it's not a gay issue, it's not a queer issue, it's not a trans issue, it's not an Indigenous issue. It's all of us, and we have to move these conversations forward for all of us as a society.
Well, and we have to be diligent too. Like you may be too young to remember this, but in California, before the United States passed same-sex marriage for everyone, California went, we do same-sex marriage, and then it was repealed. So it's not enough to get a right. You have to be diligent to keep a right, because there's evil afoot all the time, and they're always looking to undermine in some way. I want to first take the moment. I'm going to ask you about the cast in a second, but first I want to play a little bit of a song.
This is an extension of, it's the expression of who you were always meant to be. This is a defiance of, it's a rejection of the rules our bodies made for us. And now beyond what they expect. It's a perfect fit. It's there, right there inside of you. And now let your feminine, let your fabulous win. You're God in drag, you're beautiful. God in drag, you're beautiful. God in drag, you're beautiful.
There, if you want to hear the rest of the song, it'll be at the end. And so tell me about this cast. We'll wrap up with you telling me about this. I mean, you got like 9 people in the show?
There are 8 performers. Yeah, it is absolutely just they're so talented. It's like I'm constantly blown away by them. So it's led by our lead star, Starwalker, who is Dillan Chiblow, who if audiences have seen others of my work like Children of God when it toured here in 2019, or also Sedna up at Caravan Farm, Dillan was the lead in Children of God and also was in Sedna as well. And he is just extraordinary. Like his voice is absolutely breathtaking, and also in drag is just a vision. Like is so beautiful and powerful.
Were they doing drag before that, or were you going, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing drag?"
Dylan describes it as it was a bedroom queen, you know, really doing it at home and practicing with different looks. But I think that in many ways, because Dylan has been developing this musical with me over the last, you know, since 2019, and so I think he knew it was coming and was sort of really starting to develop that side of himself, because he knew, like, I'm about to do this. And then also we have Stuart Adam McKenzie, who is just extraordinary as our Mother Borealis. So the House of Borealis is a fictitious drag house here in East Van. And so Stuart is playing Mother Borealis, who's the leader of that house. And people will remember Stuart from Kinky Boots. Stuart just won the Ovation Award for Outstanding Lead Performance for Lola in Kinky Boots. So we really have such a star-studded cast. And then to round out our leading players is Jeffrey Michael Fallis, who is playing the role of Levi Borealis, who's the love interest that Star falls in love with. And Jeff is a very popular drag queen named Europa. And so the balance of skills and of expertise, in addition to their musical theater talent, is just, it's been extraordinary. And I just can't say enough good things about them. I think audiences are going to be blown away by their talent.
Nice. And I sense your love for all of them, and I'm worried because there's 8, you're going to go through all of them. So stop there. I'm going to ask you a serious question now. Okay. And then we'll plug the show and then we'll wrap up. One of the things that I think some of the viewers of this video, like myself, I don't know is the term Two-Spirit, because it is as far as my understanding is, it is an indigenous term, but because it's got the word two in it, it doesn't mean necessarily bisexual, right? Can you explain what Two-Spirit is? I mean, it's in your press release, so I'm assuming you know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is so the term Two-Spirit, it's a term that was that came out when in the 1990s in Winnipeg, as a way of describing Indigenous people who were had multiple genders inside of them. I know that the word Two-Spirit, but what you have to remember is that English language doesn't always reflect the entire worldview of Indigenous languages. So Indigenous people have had roles for Two-Spirit people or gender fluid people, you know, since time immemorial. Like so many Indigenous people have been, you know, Two-Spirit over the course of the history of this land. It's only since colonization and the insertion of religion into Indigenous communities that Two-Spirit people were cast out. And in many ways, a lot of that history and practice and protocol has still not returned to Indigenous communities. So it's something that we're still grappling with today. The impacts of colonization and of religion in Indigenous communities are still being really healed in as of right now. It's still happening. And so the reason why that's important is because that's where Star finds their strength. That's where Star is able to connect with a deep ancestral connection relating to their two-spiritness and how they express themselves, and that they are not a binary. It's not that they are man, it's not that they are woman, it's that they exist in shades in between, and that drag helps them to find a deeper form of that gender expression. And so really it's just a chance to include that complexity from within our own community, right? Like, LGBTQIA2+, it's like, do we have that kind of understanding within the community? I know people know it a little bit, but this show really recognizes that journey of decolonizing and really trying to unpack all the things that keep us from really knowing who we are. And part of that has to do with colonization.
Wow. This sounds like an epic show. If it is remotely as passionate as you are about it, it's going to blow people's minds. Thank you so much, Corey. You are a wonderkin, an amazing artist, and will I be able to? I just thought I would check you. I'll check it on air. If I attach your song to this video, am I going to get a copyright thing, or right now it's like out there?
No, probably. And I don't like it might say that the use of the music is tied to me in some way, but that's totally fine. It's just it's not like I will be the one to flag it and say like take that down.
Okay.
No.
So if you're listening to this interview, stick around. You'll hear the whole song that we heard a snippet of at the end. I'll tag it at the end there. Corey, thank you so much for chatting with me and chatting about your amazing show. Opening next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so Starwalker is opening here on Commercial Drive at the York Theatre. We start performances February 16th and we run until March 5th. And please come the first week or the second week, because by the third week we usually sell out. And so we won't be able to have tickets for you. So please come early, book your tickets in advance, and come and cheer on our queens.
Nice. Thank you, Corey. Yes, Vancouverites always wait till the last minute. Don't wait for the last minute for Starwalker. You don't want to miss it. Thank you so much, Corey.
Thank you.
This is an extension of, it's the expression of who you were always meant to be. This is a defiance of, it's a rejection of the rules our bodies made for us, and now beyond what they expect, it's a perfect fit. Is there right there inside of you? And now let your feminine, let your fabulous win. Your